This recipe is sponsored by Figs and Olives. I'm going to do a recipe for you guys that is very sophisticated. It's going to feel complicated, but it's not. I'm going to show you how to, for like a special occasion, maybe an anniversary or somebody's birthday, and you're going to love it. But everything that I got here was delivered by Figs and Olives. I've got some spinach, some green beans, some French cut green beans, which I love, some smoked gouda, a little bit of cream, some soy sauce, roasted bell peppers. This is one of my favorite things here. This is Casablanca brand Cajun seasoning, which already has salt in it. Here's some potatoes. I also have the chicken here, which already came deboned. You can see the little fillets on the side. I'm going to show you how to wrap this up with some butcher's twine, and it's going to be absolutely awesome. Let me start prepping the food here. We'll come back and I'll show you how to put it together. Okay, so the chicken will come to you like this, already deboned. These are the thighs, obviously the breasts. The fillets came in there and I took them out. There's a little piece of sinew is what they call it. It's really tough. You want to take that off. That's what I did. But once you've taken it off, you want to strategically place these in between the breast and the thigh meat, just like this, so that there's no area that doesn't have meat. I also went through and did a little cut here to fold it so that there's skin that has meat on it, you know, just like that. And now all I'm going to do, oh, also, I removed the wings now, which were here. You could leave them on, you know, if you don't want to mess around with it or you're afraid. I completely removed them and left them like this. You don't have to, you can leave them on there. It's pretty simple, but all I'm going to do now is just season this, and then we're going to start working on the stuffing that goes in here. So for seasoning, we're going to keep it very simple. I'm just going to do kosher salt, and it looks like a lot of salt that I'm putting on here. It really isn't, because I'm using diamond crystal kosher salt, which by weight has less because of the way the grain is cut. It's actually less sodium than table salt, if you will. But anyways, you want to liberally season that. And then I also do, oops. I said oops because I had the grind too coarse. So I made it just a little bit finer by tightening my mill. Make sure everything's covered really nice. And I'm just gonna let this sit for a minute. We'll actually season the other side once we have trussed it. That's coming up. So let's move on to the fillings. All right, so I've got some garlic here. Do it any way you like, you know. But this garlic is going to be for the spinach, which is also going to go into the chicken. Normally I would use a shallot. I don't have any, but I have a red onion, so I'm going to use that. Don't judge me. I should have told Figs and Olives that I needed it. They would have brought it for me. That's my bad. But anyway, I just need a small piece. I'm gonna say maybe 1/8 of an onion, or what you would call the size of a shallot. Shallots are usually about this size. I'm gonna mince it really fine. I'm gonna mince 2 cloves of garlic really fine. They're gonna go with the spinach. I'm gonna saute them. We'll show you that next. I'm sorry, man. The onions are making me cry. Anyway, you want your onions super fine, just like this. See? We're gonna do the same thing with the garlic. So let me get the garlic rolling. That's how I do garlic. I usually take the stem off, which is at the bottom of the garlic clove. Place your knife on there, and then when you slap this, you want to slap in that direction so you don't cut yourself on the sharp edge, just like that. And what that does is it allows it to be peeled so much easier. Get in our garlic as fine as the onion. You don't have to chop it. Like, you could use a garlic press and just press them through and you're good. I just like using the knife because I feel it's therapeutic. I like chopping. Okay. Alrighty. I got some smoked gouda. It's one of my favorite. It's gonna add a smoky element to the chicken. I'm just gonna peel this, give it a really quick great. You probably don't need the whole thing, but you will use at least half of it for the chicken, which is what I'm gonna do here. And then we're gonna saute the spinach, and I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. Okay, now we're gonna work on the spinach, which is part of the stuffing for the chicken. I'm just gonna start on like medium-high heat. I got some shallots. There's about a tablespoon of butter in there. To keep the butter from burning, we're gonna put a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, just enough to coat the pan, nothing crazy. We're gonna let this melt. And we are going to saute our shallots, but in this case it's red onion, don't tell anybody. We're just gonna wilt everything down. We're really not like cooking everything through. It's gonna cook inside the bird. Here's the garlic. And then once they start to like sizzle a little bit, we'll add the spinach. I have 5 ounces of spinach here. I know it's not a lot. It's gonna shrink down to basically nothing, but it's just enough to coat the bottom of the chicken, which I will show you in a little bit. Okay, see how it's sizzling everywhere? There's no color on here yet. We're at medium-low heat. Now's the time to add the spinach. Like I say, it's gonna wilt down to nothing. It's gonna cook down to basically nothing. I'm just gonna add a little bit of salt to help it wilt down like that and to season the spinach, because nobody likes unseasoned spinach. Okay, so you can see the spinach is completely wilted down. That whole big thing of spinach is now down to nothing. This is pretty fragrant right now. You can really smell the garlic and the onion. There was just a little bit of salt and pepper in here too, not much. Right about this point is where I would just turn it off, let it sit, let it cool. We actually want it cool to be put into the bird. Okay, so now we're gonna start putting together the chicken ballotine. Chicken galantine means a deboned chicken. Ballotine is actually the dish where something is wrapped up, you know, a meat, a protein is wrapped up with the stuffing inside and then roasted. That's what we're doing here. I like to start with the spinach. I've already seasoned this. You can see it's well seasoned, salt and pepper. Now I'm gonna put the spinach in here. I want it, by the way, you can use any stuffing you want. It could be sausage, whatever. But just make sure that whatever stuffing you do use, that it's cooked. Just like the spinach is cooked. You can do anything as long as it's cooked. So I'm starting off with the spinach, just like so. And I want to make sure it's everywhere, just evenly, even inside the wing here. Every little bit, just like so. And now we're gonna continue with the next thing, which I like to put the cheese kind of in between everything. So here's the smoked gouda. Again, make sure that goes everywhere. Want it spread out really nice. Just like so. This is gonna add a nice smoky flavor to our chicken. It's subtle. It's not a strong smoky flavor. So if you're one of those people that really doesn't care for smoke flavor, I highly suggest this. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna scrape out all this butter and oil to go in here too. I'm gonna get my croutons in here. I'll show you that in just a sec. Okay, now I'm gonna do some roasted red bell pepper. You could roast your own. Figs and Olives delivered this to me, so makes life so much easier. You could fire roast your own, or you could just use this. And all I am doing is just spread them out flat on here. And if they're a huge pepper like this, you could break it up into little pieces, just like so. Just make sure that every region has a big slice of it. I think this is good right here for one chicken. Next thing is croutons. Let me wash my hands and I'll do that. I always like to put some type of breading in here because what it's going to do is absorb all that moisture and make the inside filling of your chicken moist. Nobody wants to have a dry piece of filling. It's no bueno. But I figure if I'm going to put breadcrumbs in here, why not have them flavored? So I got these are garlic, onion, parsley. You can get any flavor you want. I recommend the garlic because it's already in the spinach. You can do dill. I've done the dill flavor before. It's really good. But again, you want to spread this out kind of evenly. I use maybe half the bag. You can even do that number if you want. It really doesn't matter because like I said, this is going to do two things. It's going to absorb the juices from the chicken and the vegetables and hold on to it to give you a moist filling, and it's going to impart flavor. So whether you crush it or just leave it on there in big pieces, doesn't matter. It's all going to get rolled up in here anyways. Okay, I promise you this is the most difficult part of this recipe, and it's basically rolling this chicken up that already has the stuffing in it and then tying it. This will be the most difficult, but I assure you it is not. What I like to do is kind of like wrapping a shawarma. I'm gonna go one side this way, and if anything falls out, just put it right back in. Don't worry about it, not a big deal if it falls out. Okay, here we go, just like that. I know what you're thinking, you're like, oh my God, that looks terrible. We're gonna tie it up and make it look pretty. So now I'm gonna flip so that the bird looks like this. Everything's falling out from the back, which I have a fix for. I will show you, do not panic. Here we go. Make sure everything goes back inside. Okay, so now I'm gonna come out here. I'm gonna tie this end, just like so. And then to truss, you wanna make like a circle. Bring it in, back. See how that goes? Just like so. And tighten it, do another circle, and you just keep going down the line. Now I know what you're thinking, you're like, oh my God, what a mess. I have a fix for that. So just keep trussing your bird with no worries. So I have a fix for that and I will show you it. Okay, now I'm gonna flip it back, just like so, gentle. Whatever came out goes right back in. Let's make sure everything's tucked in there. And then what we're going to do is this. This is the trick. You take a little piece of aluminum foil, and I'm going to wrap it right underneath that string to keep the stuffing from coming out, just like this. And the string's gonna come off, and it's gonna go through this string. I'm gonna need to cut that right about there. Chicken flying everywhere. And I have stuffing that I'm gonna put back in here. But just like so. Go to the next one. Thread that through. Thread. This can be adjusted just like that. Thread this through. It's tedious work, and I promise you it's the hardest part of this recipe, but it has a fix. then you can always tighten it a little more. And we're gonna do the same with the foil on the other side where it spilled out. All right, so I preheated my cast iron skillet. You can use any skillet as long as it's oven safe, because we're gonna go to 400 degrees. I'm using cast iron. You can use whatever you like. So I've preheated it and I've coated the bottom of it with a little bit of oil. Again, any kind of oil will work. I think I might have even used corn oil here. You can use olive oil, whatever, not really important. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this seam side down. You're going to hear a little bit of a sizzle because I preheated that. And this is going to go into the oven and we're going to cook it to an internal temperature of 160 degrees. We're looking for 165. The reason we stop at 160 is because there's something called carryover temperature. So even when you take it out of the oven, it continues cooking inside till it reaches 165. That's when you know it's safe to eat. If it doesn't reach 165 outside of the oven, put it back in until it does. Okay, that's gonna go in there for about 45 minutes or until it reaches the internal temperature of 160 degrees Fahrenheit. See you in 45 minutes. Okay, so there it is. Now I cooked this, like I said, to an internal temperature of 160 degrees. It's gonna come up to 165, I'm sure of it. I can also tell just from touching it that it's completely done. You can use a thermometer to cook the temperature, but right now I'm just gonna let it rest. I'll take it out of the pan and I will make a sauce with the drippings, which I'm gonna show you. Okay, so I've taken out all the fat from the pan and returned 2 teaspoons to there. All I'm going to do is I'm gonna use heavy cream. You can use a little bit of flour here and go like a light milk if you wanted to thicken it up. I'm going with the cream because it has that sweetness that I like. It's a natural sweetness that comes from cream. So I'm gonna add about, I mean, I could measure it, but I'm gonna say it's about a cup because I do everything to taste. There's about a cup there. I'm going to add a little bit of fresh cracked pepper for that little bit of bite, that spicy bite, and a little bit of soy sauce. Now I use low sodium soy sauce. By the way, the butter that I was using before, no salt. Always use unsalted because it's actually a better product. For here, I do like a teaspoon. I'm just gonna do a splash. Like I say, we're going to taste it. And I'm scraping up the bottom, all that fond. That fond is what sticks to the pan from the protein. But all that I'm gonna bring up because that's all flavor. And most everyone's gonna think that it's the fresh cracked pepper, but it's those little bits of the chicken that's stuck in here. All that flavor we're gonna get incorporated. And then we're gonna finish it off with a little bit of Parmesan Reggiano cheese that I already have grated. And all the cheese is gonna do is just tighten up the sauce a little bit because you can see it's obviously really thin. You could cook it down till it gets thicker, but this is my version of a zip sauce. This is the Parmesan Reggiano that's grated. Has a nutty flavor, unlike regular Parmesan. It's worth paying extra for this stuff. I know it's a little expensive. I get it from Costco, which is kind of cheap. There we go. So once this tightens up to what I like, I call it good. We'll taste it, make sure it's good, and that's gonna be our zip sauce. Okay, so I'm gonna check the flavor right now. I'm kind of liking how thick it is right now, how it coats the back of a spoon like that. But I want to taste it. Okay, that's good. I think it needs a little bit more soy, just to bring out that zip flavor. And it lacks salt, but instead of adding salt, I'm gonna add a little bit more cheese, which has salt in it. It's gonna help it tighten up a little bit more and give it some salty, nutty flavor. Let's mix that up. Okay, I'm really liking the thickness of the sauce now. See how that is? Really like that, so let's taste. Okay, salt, perfect. I want more pepper. You can do how you like it. I want it to have a little bit more bite in there, but that's it. This sauce is done. So I've got some Yukon Gold potatoes here. I'm getting them to bite size. You don't want to take like a big hunk of potato. Nobody really likes that, you know? Even though they are going to be seasoned pretty good, I'm going to be using Cajun seasoning. You can do anything you want. You can toss them in rosemary, a little bit of salt, some butter, Dijon mustard for a little bit of tang. I'm going to keep mine simple and just go Cajun and olive oil. All right, I got my water at a boil. I'm going to use this water for both. This is about 2 tablespoons of, again, I use Diamond Crystal. About 2 tablespoons of water. There's probably a little over a half a gallon of water in there. I have my Yukon Golds. I'm going to parboil them. I don't want them to be completely mush, so I'm just going to go maybe 5 minutes of boil and then take them out. Okay, potatoes are semi-done. Like I said, we wanted to parboil them. I'll show you what I mean by that. You'll see the skin just barely start to come off. You'll run a fork through it and it'll go in easy, but not like super easy, I guess. Anyway, it took about 6 minutes, I think, to get this far. And it's gonna vary depending on how big you cut your taters. You know, so if you cut them bigger, it's gonna take longer. If you cut them smaller, it'll go quicker. But anyway, to my potatoes, I have a tablespoon of butter here, which I cut into little tiny cubes so that it would melt with the butter. And then I'm gonna add my Casablanca seasoning. Let me grab that. Okay, again, Cajun. You can go any seasoning you want. You can do rosemary and butter, a little bit of salt, and you're done. This already has a little bit of salt in it, so I'm not going to salt. The butter I used is also saltless or unsalted. So all I'm going to do is put enough of this Cajun on here that coats everything. And then I'm gonna toss them. The reason we boiled them is that once you toss them, I'm gonna show you, my God, it smells so good, guys. The heat is making the oils come out of the seasoning, and it's just permeating the whole house. But anyway, what I wanna show you guys is that when you parboil them and you toss them, they get like this almost potato starchy coating on there, if you will. That coating is gonna get crispy in the oven and almost be like a batter, really. It's gonna taste really good, it's gonna get crunchy, and the inside will remain fluffy. So that's just a technique. And that's what they should look like, seasoned and all. All right, so I'm using a non-stick pan. I think it's important to use a black steel pan or a dark colored pan. It'll actually cause the potatoes to crisp up a little more and caramelize on the bottom, but we don't want those potatoes to stick. So I'm using olive oil. You can use any kind of oil you want, grapeseed, God knows, I mean, whatever you have, corn oil, really doesn't matter, it's not important. It's just to keep these from sticking, you know? You could even do parchment paper if you wanted to, but all I'm doing is coating the bottom. You can go in there with your hand and kind of get the walls and everything, which is what I like to do. And then I'm gonna take my taters, which we tossed. They're gonna go in here. Remember, they were already tossed in the butter and the Cajun flavor. So now I got these on here. You could even put more oil on top of them. I'm not, I think I got plenty. But you know, cooking is kind of like you expressing yourself. Whatever you like, put it on there. And you can see, like, I didn't crowd this pan because I want every one of them to be touching the bottom so that it gets crispy on the bottom. And they're gonna get crispy on the top because of that coating that we did, because we tossed them and parboiled them. They're gonna go into a 400-degree oven for about 25 minutes, maybe half an hour. We'll check on them, make sure they're nice and crispy. I'll show you what they look like. The potatoes have crisped up really nice. They look great. You can see they're still sizzling. And I'll place them in here. I should have poured them the other way so you guys could see them. But you see how they got nice and crispy on the bottom and the top because of that technique we did where we parboiled them. But look at that crispiness from the bottom. See what that looks like? This is how you do a potato. And trust me, you use this technique, it'll be delicious every single time. You hear that crunch? Like butter. I will be using the same water that I parboiled the potatoes in. There's still a little bit of starch in there, not a big deal. I'm gonna cook these green beans in there just slightly. We're doing the same technique basically that we did with the potatoes that we're doing with the green beans. I like my green beans to have a little snap to them. They can be eaten raw. They're delicious raw, but I like them cooked just a little bit so that I can incorporate flavor to them. So what I do, you can see that water was boiling a minute ago. This by the way is salted water. And you see how like as soon as they hit that hot water, they start to turn a more bright green. That's what you're looking for. The water is salted, so that's gonna give them a little bit of flavor. I'm not gonna keep them in here too long. 3 minutes max, that's it. Then they're gonna go into a pan with a little bit of garlic and butter, some olive oil, and black pepper, and they are done. Show you that next. Okay, it's been about 3 minutes on high heat for these beans. Before I take them out and put them in here in the pan, what I have is about a tablespoon of butter, just enough to coat the bottom. And I'm going to crush 1 clove of garlic in there and let that perfume. Just give it, and I'm on medium heat right now, which is good. Now the beans go in. And we're just gonna toss them around in a little bit of salt, butter, olive oil, and fresh cracked pepper, and they are done. That's all they need. The garlic is in there too, of course. I can go to high heat now. Oops, a couple stray beans gonna go in there. I'm gonna do some fresh cracked pepper, a little bit of oil to coat, some extra virgin olive oil, and I'm going to season them with a little bit of salt. Again, we're using the diamond crystal kosher salt. Give them a quick toss, and they are done. Now, if you like them cooked more than this, obviously you could saute them more or you could boil them more. I like them to have a little bit of a crunch, just the way I like them. That garlic flavor is perfect on them too. And they're done. Kathy has taken the liberty of kind of like making everything look really nice. It's not necessary, but I think it's cooled down enough. This is rested for at least 15 minutes. You want it to rest so that the juices don't run all over the place. If you want juicy chicken, let it rest. So all I'm doing now is I'm taking off the truss that we did, all this butcher twine. And don't forget there's a piece of aluminum foil down there. That's not good eats. So we're gonna get rid of all of that. Just like so. Let me get rid of it. I'll be right back. So, really sharp knife. I'm just gonna cut right down the center just to show you guys what that's gonna look like. And then typically what I do is something like about 1 inch steak per person. Just like this. Then I do my potatoes right on the side. See how crispy and crunchy those potatoes turned out. And then our green beans, of course. A little bit of garlic, some olive oil, salt and pepper. Very simple, still crunchy. And of course, the sauce, which I will grab for you. And here is our sauce, what I like to call a zip sauce. And you could put this all over everything in here, but it definitely belongs on that chicken. And if a little gets on the potatoes and the green beans, I won't be mad at it. Just saying. I just want to show you guys how juicy this is when you cook the temperature. See that? See that? Like when I squeeze the actual chicken, it's just full of juice. That's for two reasons. One is I cooked to temperature. Two, I let this chicken rest. So very important tips. And I'm gonna give this a try. The smoked gouda really comes through. It's so delicious. The stuffing, amazing. You can taste the garlic, you know, the spinach. The beans, let's try the beans. Still crunchy, just the way I like them. They got that garlic, delicious. And the taters, which like I said, if a little bit of that sauce gets on them, this is so good. You gotta make this meal for somebody.